Free yourself from limiting beliefs with this simple NLP language pattern. Keep watching. In this video, I'm going to talk about modal operators. Now, you may have practiced NLP, you may have been through a practitioner training and you're like, modal operators, what is that? Well, unfortunately, most people who take NLP trainings, they don't take the time to really study the meta model, which was the first NLP model ever created. It was actually created before NLP had a name, and it is perhaps the most important model. I wouldn't say it's the most powerful model. I would give that to Steve Andreas's self-concept model, but I would say that it's probably the most important one because it really holds all of the clues to not only NLP, but what NLP has always strived to do, or what the goal, the mission, the purpose of NLP, which is to understand subjective experience. So what modal operators do, or they identify the limitations in your map of reality. So as I've said in many videos before, we don't function directly from reality. We function from our internal map of reality. We create a map of reality, and why do we do this? Well, because we can't take in all of the information that's hitting us all the time. And so there are a lot of unknowns in the world. There are a lot of things that our five senses can't even pick up, most likely. And for all of those things, we have a way of distorting, deleting, and generalizing information. And that is what creates a map. And if you think about why we actually have maps. Well, maps make things easier. We don't, if you're in the territory, you're like looking around, you can't see from a bird's eye view where you are. What a map can tell you that. A map puts in all the necessary details, doesn't recreate the territory completely. It only recreates the details that are necessary for you to navigate it. So we make maps, or we make one big map of reality. And as any map will have, it also has limitations. Your map has limitations. So when using NLP, what we do is we start going for something, or there's something that we want. And along the way, we encounter a limitation. And it may appear in your reality that that limitation is real and there's just nothing you can do about it. Now, sometimes there are those real limitations, but a lot of times it actually has to do with a limitation in your map of reality. So a modal operator is one of those limitations. And how we identify that is easily, we identify it in language. When I say I can't, when I say I need to, I have to, I must, these are all types of modal operators. They're an indication of a map, a limitation in the map. And so there are ways to challenge this. And we do this with the meta model. You learn this one particular pattern, there are several, and you also learn how to challenge that pattern so that you can overcome this limitation. What we're going to do in this video is take a really deep dive into modal operators, so much so that I don't think this is really being taught in any NLP training. What I'm also going to teach you is not something that I came up with. I can't take credit for it. I have to give credit to my late mentor, Steve Andreas. If you're interested in what I'm teaching here, you will find it in Steve Andreas's book, Six Blind Elephants, Volume 2. That's a section on modal operators, and that's what I'm going to be drawing from. So again, I can't take credit for this. This would be Steve's work. Think about anything that you feel like you should do, and especially something you feel like you should do, but you haven't, or you can't seem to. When we can't do something, and can't is a modal operator, I say I can't do it, I can't succeed, I can't stop drinking, I can't stop overeating, I can't learn a language. We have all these can'ts that we can't do. I've tried it, but I can't, right? So that is a modal operator. Now, often what will happen too is when we say that, we say, but I should. I can't stop drinking, but I should. I can't succeed, but I should. When we say that, or when we think that, this is very painful. Think about that. Anything you feel like you can't do, but you should do. That's where a lot of suffering is created. So think of something that you're trying to do, but you can't seem to do, and you feel like you should. So something like, I try to succeed, but I can't, but I should, right? So anything like that. And it doesn't have to be success. I mean, we can think about almost anything as like succeeding at something, but it can be very, very, very specific, right? I try to lose weight, but I can't, but I should. So here's the thing about this. You can't choose to do something that's impossible. When you think about that and you're like, whoa, that sounds pretty dark or depressing. So this is just the beginning of it though, so bear with me. You can't choose something that you can't do. You can't choose the impossible, right? If you really can't do it, then it's impossible. So you can't. Adding that should to the equation is where the suffering comes from. Okay? So let's think about this a little bit differently. You can't choose something that's impossible, but you can want something that's impossible. And I think about that, how that sort of changes the way you feel about this. So how does that feel when you go from, I can't do something, but I should, and that's what really feels bad about it because you're adding that should, to I can't do this, I can't choose this because it's impossible, but I want it. First of all, you should feel a tremendous amount of relief to finally say, okay, you know what? I can't do it. But if I want it, I can't, but I want it, then that opens up the possibility of learning how to do it. Try it out. So take whatever you were working with and say, okay, I can't, but I want it, I want to do it, I want to have it. And how does that feel? You should immediately feel the difference in saying both statements. And if you have to, stop the video, say both statements and compare the two and compare how they feel. As long as you're saying that I can't and I should, you're blocking out the possibility of learning how to. That's really what's happening there. I can't, but I should feels bad because it feels hopeless. And oftentimes what people will do is they will go to their self-worth, or they'll say, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm just not enough. But if you remove the should and you say, I can't, but I want, now you're opening up that possibility to learn. And this is so, so important. So what happens is you start saying things like, well, okay, I can't choose to succeed here, but I want to. Now, what are the possibilities of learning how to? I can't stop drinking, but I want to. I can't stop overeating, but I want to. Or I can't stick to a diet, but I want to. It's very, very different. You can just feel it in your body, how different that is. A very powerful example of where and how this works is in any 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous or any of the 12-step programs. And I believe it is the very first step, which is to say, I am powerless to do anything about this. So at the very beginning, what makes this work is that you're now realizing that the belief that you could is a false belief and a limiting belief. Because if you believe you could and you're not, then you should. And that's what feels bad about it. So think about that for a second. If you believe you can do something and you're not doing it, then that's when you bring in the should. But let's roll that back. The truth is you can't. Okay? And in the admission of I can't, then there's only one direction to go, and that is to learn how. When you say I can't but I should, or I can't but I must, any of those things, what it's basically doing is it's blocking you from that possibility of learning how, because underlying that, presupposed in that, is that you actually can, but you're not. And that's what's so hard about this. Now, I feel like I've kind of over-explained this, but the thing is that it really is so incredibly simple. And I'm trying to go at it in different ways so that it makes it very easy for you to understand. Now, you do have to put this into practice. Actually try this. Actually say the words out loud. You might even have to write it. Change the way that you're writing this and change the way that you're thinking about it. So if you haven't been able to do something, especially if you've tried to do it and you haven't been able to, that probably means you can't. Now, that doesn't mean that you never can. It just means I can't. And in the acceptance of that, I'm also not presupposing that I can, which means that I should. So take it back. If I can't, now there's only one other possibility. And so you naturally will gravitate to that other possibility. It has nothing to do with self-worth. It has nothing to do if you're good enough or enough at all. It's just something that's time to learn how to do it. So to summarize once again, the false belief that you could keeps you from learning how to. When you realize you can't, then it becomes very clear that all you have to do is learn how. If you'd like to learn more about the meta model and the patterns that are in the meta model, in the description right here down below, there's a link. You just click that link and you can get access to a free PDF where I give you more patterns of the meta model. And like I said, the meta model is probably the most important model to learn in NLP because it really holds the keys and the clues to how all NLP works, which is also more clues and keys to how you experience, what is that structure of your experience. And when you understand that, then you can change it. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe by clicking the subscribe button and clicking the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out, which is normally Wednesdays and Saturdays. Last but not least, if you found this video helpful and you know someone else, a friend or a family member who could benefit from this video, make sure you share it with them. Be a good friend. Take care.